quantum entanglement. I was reading through the listener-submitted stuff, and some of the questions we got were, well, really thought-provoking. And I knew we need an expert to help us untangle all of this.
Well, it's definitely a topic that challenges our everyday understanding of the universe. I mean, we're talking about particles that seem to communicate instantaneously, regardless of the distance between them. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, that's the spooky action at a distance that I've heard about, right? I think even Einstein had a hard time wrapping his head around this one.
Exactly. It seemed to contradict some of the fundamental principles of his own theory of relativity, the speed of light being the ultimate speed limit and all that. It's like entanglement throws a wrench into that whole idea.
Okay, well, before we get too deep into the weeds, maybe we can start with a bit of a primer. I saw some mentions of magical dice and Schrodinger's cat in the source material. What's the deal with that? Should I be picturing a cat gambling in space?
Not quite. But those analogies do provide a good starting point for grasping the essence of entanglement. The magic dice thing, well, it's a way to illustrate the correlation between entangled particles. Like, imagine two dice, right? And no matter how far apart you roll them, they always land on the same number. It's kind of similar to how entangled particles behave.
Okay, so what's the actual science behind these magic dice? What exactly is quantum entanglement?
Well, in simple terms, it's when two or more particles become linked and they share a quantum state. It's like they're connected by an invisible thread. And the mind-blowing part is they can influence each other instantaneously no matter how far apart they are.
So let's say we have one particle here on Earth and its entangled buddy is like light years away. They're still acting like they're connected. That's wild.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they have this secret communication channel that transcends the limitations of space and time as we understand them.
And that's where the whole spooky action at a distance thing comes in, right? Like, how can something happening over here instantly affect something happening way over there? It just doesn't seem to make sense in our everyday experience.
It really doesn't. And that's why Einstein, along with Podolsky and Rosen, came up with this thought experiment called the EPR paradox. They were trying to highlight the weirdness of entanglement and how it seemed to clash with the idea of locality, which is the principle that objects can only be influenced by their immediate surroundings.
I remember reading about that in one of the articles. So what's the resolution to this paradox? Does entanglement actually break the laws of physics?
Well, that's a question that's still debated among physicists. Entanglement seems to suggest that there might be deeper connections in the universe, connections that operate outside of our conventional notions of space and time.
Okay, so maybe information isn't actually traveling faster than light, but there's something else going on that we don't fully understand yet.
That's one way to think about it. It challenges our classical intuitions about how the universe works, forcing us to consider new possibilities.
Now, I also saw that our sources mention superposition in relation to entanglement, and there's that whole Schrodinger's cat analogy again. Can you help me connect the dots here?
Sure, superposition is crucial for understanding entanglement. Just like Schrodinger's cat exists in a blurry state of both alive and dead until we observe it, entangled particles exist in a superposition of states. It's not until we measure one of the entangled particles that its state becomes definite, and then that instantly influences the state of its entangled partner.
So it's like by observing one particle, we force both of them to choose a state. And that choice is somehow communicated between them instantly, no matter how far apart they are.
Yeah, that's a simplified way of putting it, but it captures the essence of the mystery. And, that's what's really captivated and baffled physicists for decades.
So entanglement, it's real, but we don't really know how it works.
Pretty much. And that's what makes it so exciting. It pushes us to consider possibilities beyond our current scientific framework, potentially opening up new avenues for, well, new discoveries and technologies.
Speaking of technologies, I see that our sources mention some incredible real-world applications for entanglement. But before we jump into those, I'm curious about the types of particles that actually get entangled. Are we talking everyday objects or something more exotic?
No, not quite everyday objects. Entanglement typically occurs at the subatomic level, involving particles like photons, those are particles of light, and also electrons.
So, how do scientists actually create these entangled pairs? Am I picturing some incredibly delicate microscopic surgery on these tiny particles?
Well, it's delicate, that's for sure, but not quite surgery. One technique they use is called spontaneous parametric down conversion.
Spontaneous what now?
Spontaneous parametric down conversion, or SPDC for short. It's where they shine a laser beam through a special crystal, and that causes a single photon from the laser to split into two entangled photons.
So the crystal is like an entanglement factory.
You could say that. The photons emerge from the crystal with correlated properties. Their polarization, which is the direction their light waves oscillate, well, it's always opposite. So if one is horizontally polarized, the other will be vertically polarized. And this correlation persists even when they're separated by large distances.
So we've gone from magic dice to crystals splitting photons. It's amazing to see how these abstract concepts actually play out in experiments.
And these experiments have provided some compelling evidence that entanglement is not just theoretical, it's a real phenomenon. There's the Bell test, for instance, which was designed to address Einstein's concerns about hidden variables and spooky action.
Okay, I've heard of the Bell test. Can you refresh my memory on what it is and why it's so significant?
Well, basically, the Bell test is a series of experiments that use entangled particles. And they're trying to test whether the correlations we observe could be explained by hidden information shared between the particles, rather than this non-local connection implied by entanglement. And the results of these experiments, particularly those conducted by Elaine Aspect back in the 1980s, well, they strongly support the non-local interpretation, which suggests that the connection between entangled particles is truly instantaneous and independent of any physical signals traveling between them.
So Bell's experiments, they basically confirm that the spookiness is real.
Exactly. The Bell test, along with decades of subsequent experiments, has provided a robust foundation for the reality and non-locality of entanglement. I mean, it's one of the most well-tested and verified aspects of quantum mechanics.
So this is mind-blowing stuff. We've established that entanglement is real, it's weird, and it seems to defy some of our most fundamental assumptions about the universe. But why is this so important? Why should we care about these particles doing their spooky dance across the cosmos?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Entanglement, it's not just a curious phenomenon. It has the potential to, well, revolutionize technology as we know it.
Okay, now we're getting to the really exciting part. What can we do with this entanglement magic?
Let's dive into the world of unbreakable codes and, well, instantaneous communication. That's where entanglement really takes center stage. In the realms of secure communication and quantum teleportation, things get really interesting.
Unbreakable codes and teleportation. This just keeps getting better and better. I can't wait to explore these applications in more detail.
Well, then let's take a short break to gather our thoughts. We'll be back shortly to uncover the fascinating potential of entanglement in secure communication and the mind-boggling concept of quantum teleportation.
All right, so we've established that entanglement is this bizarre, seemingly magical connection between particles.
Yeah.
But how does this translate into unbreakable codes? It sounds like, something straight out of a spy movie.
It might sound like science fiction, but the principles behind quantum cryptography, they're very real and deeply rooted in the laws of physics. Imagine trying to listen in on a conversation, right? And the very act of listening changes the words being spoken. That's kind of the idea behind quantum key distribution, QKD.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this QKD thing. How does it actually work?
So it all starts with those entangled photons we were talking about. In QKD, you have two parties, we'll call them Alice and Bob. They want to share a secret key to encrypt their communication, right? So they do this by sending each other entangled photons. Because these photons are linked, any attempt by an eavesdropper, let's call them Eve, to intercept and measure these photons, well, it would inevitably alter their quantum state.
Ah, so it's like those tamper-proof seals you see on products.
Yeah.
If someone tries to open the package, it's obvious, right?
That's a great analogy. In QKD, Alice and Bob, they can detect Eve's presence by comparing their measurements of the entangled photons. If the measurements don't match as expected, well, they know someone's been trying to eavesdrop, and the key is compromised. So they discard that key and start over with a new set of entangled photons.
That's pretty clever. So entanglement basically provides a built-in security system that alerts you if someone's trying to snoop on your conversation.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that this security is based on the fundamental laws of quantum mechanics. It's not relying on some complex mathematical algorithm that could be cracked by some clever hacker. It's a completely different approach to cryptography. And it has the potential to revolutionize how we secure sensitive information.
This is amazing. So from unbreakable codes to, What was the other application? Oh, yeah, quantum teleportation. Now we're definitely getting into science fiction territory, right? Are we talking about beaming people across the galaxy like in Star Trek?
Well, not quite. At least not yet. While teleporting people, that remains firmly in the realm of science fiction. What we can teleport with entanglement is information.
Information. Okay, my brain is starting to melt a bit. Can you walk me through how this information teleportation actually works?
Okay, so imagine you have two entangled particles. We'll call them A and B. You give particle A to Alice and particle B to Bob, right? Now, Alice, she has another particle, particle C, whose quantum state she wants to teleport over to Bob.
So Alice wants to send the information contained in particle C to Bob, but without actually physically sending particle C.
Exactly. And here's where the entanglement magic comes in. Alice, she performs a special measurement on particles A and C, entangling them together. Because particles A and B were already entangled, this measurement, it instantaneously influences the state of particle B, even though it's far away with Bob.
So it's like by entangling particle C with A, Alice is indirectly entangling it with B as well.
That's a good way to think about it. The measurement Alice performs, it doesn't actually reveal a state of particle C, but it does establish a correlation between A and C that, through the entanglement with B, is mirrored in B's state. Then Bob, he receives some classical information from Alice about the measurement outcome. This allows him to perform a specific operation on particle B, and that transforms its state into an exact replica of C's original state.
So Alice is sending Bob, like, a set of instructions on how to reconstruct the information, using the entangled particle as a blueprint.
You got it. The key here is that the quantum state itself is never directly transmitted. Only classical information about the measurement outcome is sent, which doesn't violate the speed of light limit. And voila, the information has been teleported from Alice to Bob.
This is incredible. Entanglement is like a quantum fax machine.
Haha, in a way, yes. And while this technology is still in its early stages, it has the potential to revolutionize communication, secure and potentially instantaneous transfer of information, across vast distances. Imagine transmitting complex data, like medical images or scientific data sets, between continents, just like that.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. Unbreakable codes, quantum teleportation, this is like the ultimate Swiss Army knife of future technologies. But before we start, dreaming of teleporting ourselves across the universe, I'm curious about the practical challenges. Our sources mention that entanglement, it's pretty fragile, easily disrupted. How does this impact these real-world applications?
That's a crucial point. Entanglement is very sensitive. It can be easily disrupted by interactions with the environment, heat, light, vibrations, all sorts of things. And this sensitivity, well, it poses a significant challenge for building practical quantum technologies.
So how do scientists overcome this fragility? Is there a way to shield entanglement from these environmental disturbances?
Researchers are developing a variety of techniques to protect and control entanglement. One approach involves isolating the particles from their surroundings, using things like ultra-high vacuum chambers or cryogenic temperatures.
So it's like creating a special environment where entanglement can thrive.
Exactly. Another important area of research is focused on developing more robust forms of entanglement, ones that are less susceptible to environmental noise.
So it's a race against decoherence.
Precisely. And it's a race that scientists are making significant progress in. They've successfully entangled particles and maintained that entanglement over distances of hundreds of kilometers, paving the way for large-scale quantum networks.
Speaking of networks, our sources mention the concept of a quantum internet. What exactly is that, and how would it work?
The quantum internet, it's a vision of a global network that can transmit quantum information. It would leverage the power of entanglement to connect quantum computers and other quantum devices. Imagine a network where quantum computers can communicate with each other, sharing information and collaborating to solve complex problems.
So it's like the next evolution of the internet, but powered by quantum mechanics. What would be the benefits of such a network?
Oh, the possibilities are pretty transformative. Secure communication on a global scale, distributed quantum computing, even revolutionizing scientific collaboration. Researchers could share and manipulate quantum information in real time.
This sounds incredible. But I imagine building a quantum internet comes with its own unique set of challenges, especially given how fragile entanglement is. how do we overcome the distance limitations imposed by decoherence?
That's where quantum repeaters come in.
Quantum repeaters.
Yeah, these are devices that can extend the range of entanglement distribution, allowing us to build longer, more complex networks.
So they're like signal boosters for entanglement.
That's a good analogy. They act as intermediaries, allowing entanglement to be extended across a network of nodes.
I see. So it's like building a chain of entanglement links, connecting distant locations.
Exactly. And research into quantum repeaters, it's a hot topic. Various approaches are being explored.
So we have scientists working on creating and manipulating entanglement, protecting it, and developing ways to transmit it over long distances. It sounds like a truly massive effort, pushing the boundaries of multiple fields.
It absolutely is. Building a quantum internet is a grand challenge, and it's attracting some of the brightest minds in the world, driven by the incredible potential of this technology.
This is truly fascinating. We've gone from the theoretical foundations of entanglement to the very real possibility of a quantum internet. But before we get too carried away with the future, let's take a step back and revisit some of the key takeaways from our deep dive so far.
That's a great idea. Let's recap what we've learned about entanglement and explore some of the broader implications for, well, our understanding of the universe.
Okay, I'm ready for a recap and some deeper reflection. What does entanglement tell us about the universe we live in?
Let's dive into those deeper questions and explore how entanglement challenges our classical worldview and opens up new avenues for understanding reality itself.
So we've covered some truly mind-bending concepts, the spookiness of entanglement, the potential for unbreakable codes, even teleportation, but just of information, of course. It's a lot to take in.
It really is, and we're just scratching the surface here. Entanglement isn't just some theoretical curiosity. It has real-world implications. It's pushing the boundaries of what's possible in computing, in communication, well, in so many areas.
Yeah, I mean, quantum computers using entanglement to perform those calculations that are impossible for classical computers. Secure communication networks using it to create unbreakable codes. And even, quantum teleportation, like, wow.
And we're still in the early stages of all this. There's still so much more to discover about this strange, strange phenomenon.
It feels like we're at the edge of a new technological era, one where the rules of classical physics don't really apply anymore.
It's a big shift in our understanding of the universe. Entanglement challenges our notions of locality, causality. Well, it suggests that there might be deeper connections operating beyond our everyday perception.
So what are the big unanswered questions that scientists are still grappling with when it comes to entanglement? Like, what are the mysteries that still keep them up at night?
Well, one of the most fundamental questions is, how does entanglement actually work? I mean, we can observe its effects, we can mathematically describe its properties, but that underlying mechanism, it remains a mystery. How do these particles maintain their instantaneous connection, seemingly defying space and time?
Yeah, even though experiments like the Bell test have confirmed the non-local nature of it, they don't explain the how behind this spooky action at a distance.
Exactly. It's a question that's puzzled physicists for decades, and it's driving research into different interpretations of quantum mechanics, each trying to provide a more complete explanation for entanglement.
So there's still a lot of debate and uncertainty surrounding the fundamental nature of it.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it such fertile ground for exploration and discovery. As we delve deeper, we're likely to uncover even more profound insights into the nature of reality itself.
So beyond these fundamental questions, what are some of the technological challenges? I know our sources mentioned that entanglement is fragile.
Yes, that's a major hurdle. It's susceptible to environmental noise, which can disrupt the correlations between particles. Maintaining entanglement over long distances and in complex systems is a major engineering challenge.
So it's a constant battle against decoherence, this tendency for entanglement to degrade over time due to interactions with the environment.
Precisely. And it's a battle being fought on multiple fronts, you see. Researchers are developing innovative methods to shield those entangled particles from noise.
It sounds like there's a whole field of study dedicated to creating the perfect environment for entanglement to thrive.
There is. And as we talked about earlier, the development of those quantum repeaters, they're crucial for extending the range of entanglement distribution, allowing us to build those large-scale quantum networks like the quantum internet.
Right. Those quantum repeaters, they act like signal boosters, letting us overcome the distance limitations. It's amazing to think we're on the path to creating a network where quantum computers can talk to each other across the globe, all thanks to entanglement.
It's an ambitious vision, but one that's, well, becoming more plausible all the time.
As we wrap up our deep dive, I'm left with a sense of awe at the possibilities that entanglement unlocks. It's something that challenges our most basic assumptions about the universe and opens up this whole new realm of technological potential.
And the most exciting part is we're really just at the beginning of this quantum journey. As we continue to explore the mysteries of entanglement, who knows what we might uncover.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll look back at our current understanding as, well, as primitive. Much like how we view classical physics now, in the context of quantum mechanics.
Maybe we'll discover even stranger connections, pushing the boundaries of our imagination, reshaping how we see reality.
It's certainly been an incredible journey, and I want to thank you for guiding us through this fascinating and complex world.
It's been my pleasure. And to our listener, remember, this is just the start of your quantum adventure. Stay curious, keep asking questions, and let the mysteries of entanglement inspire you.
Maybe one day you'll be the one making groundbreaking discoveries. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive, and until next time, keep exploring.